Today I'm going to be talking about the integumentary system. The integumentary system is also known as the skin. It is the largest organ of your body, and it is also called the cutaneous membrane. The major function of the skin is to be the covering of the body and to be a protective barrier. The skin also indicates a person's state of health, and dermatology is the study of the skin. The skin has two main layers. The first layer is the epidermis. The epidermis is made of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, and there's 5 layers of the epidermis. There's the stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, and stratum basale, which can be remembered by the sentence, "Come, let's get some bud." The stratum lucidum is only present in thick skin and is not present in thin skin. The second layer of the integumentary system is the dermis. The dermis is inferior to the epidermis, or deeper to the epidermis, and it is made of dense, irregular connective tissue. There are 2 layers of the dermis. The first superior layer of the dermis is the papillary layer, also known as the areolar layer, and it is made of areolar connective tissue. The papillary layer has dermal papillae, and it is very vascularized and has an epidermal ridge which increases the surface area. The second layer of the dermis is the reticular layer, which is made of dense, irregular connective tissue. The reticular layer helps resist stress, and this is where you will find hair and glands. Deeper to the dermis is the hypodermis. The hypodermis is not part of the integumentary system, and it is also known as the subcutaneous layer. It is made of areolar and adipose connective tissue and is useful for thermoregulation and padding. There are 4 main types of skin cells. The first type of skin cell is a keratinocyte. Keratinocytes make up the majority of the epidermis. They are mostly found in the basal layer, and they travel to the superior surface to replace dead cells, and this is when the cells fill with keratin and die. So they are keratinized cells made by keratinocytes. The second type of skin cell is a melanocyte. Everyone has an equal amount of melanocytes in their body, and melanocytes help determine skin color. Melanocytes produce melanin, and melanin is the skin pigment. The amount of melanin is what varies between people and determines skin color. The amount of melanin increases in sunlight, and melanin helps to surround and protect the nucleus of the cells to protect the genetic information. You will find melanocytes in the basal layer. The next type of skin cell is a Langerhans cell. Last time I was talking about Langerhans cells. Langerhans cells are a type of skin cell that are found in the stratum spinosum. Langerhans cells act to protect the epidermis from antigens. They do this by using dendritic cells to present the antigens to the immune system. The last type of skin cell is a Merkel cell. These are also known as tactile or sensory cells. Merkel cells are present in the stratum basale, and they are associated with sensory neurons. A compression of the Merkel cell will lead to a release of a neurotransmitter. There are 2 types of densities of the skin. There is thick skin and there is thin skin. Thick skin is only found on your palms, your feet, your fingers, and your toes. Thick skin has all 5 layers of the epidermis. This includes the stratum lucidum. Thick skin has sweat glands but no sebaceous oil glands, and there is no hair in thick skin. The stratum corneum in thick skin is much thicker. Thin skin covers the rest of your body and only has 4 layers in the epidermis. There is no stratum lucidum. Thin skin has sweat glands, sebaceous glands, and hair follicles. The functions of skin are for protection, and for example, the Langerhans cells report to the immune system, and another example is that melanin protects from UV radiation. Skin also acts as a barrier, and it is selectively permeable. And this is another reason that skin is also a major source of hydration for the body, because it is selectively permeable. The skin also functions for temperature regulation. For example, you sweat to cool down and lower your body temperature. And the erector pili muscles are reactive in cold and pull the hair follicles backward for insulation. Another function of the skin is sensation. An example of this is Merkel cells. Merkel are sensory cells. Another function is absorption. The skin can absorb lipid-soluble things such as vitamin A, D, E, and K, but it is not water-soluble. Or every time we took a shower, we would fill up with water, and that would be terrible. The skin also excretes waste. An example of this is for electrolyte homeostasis when you work out. Another function of the skin is vitamin D synthesis. So when you go out in the sunlight, your skin makes vitamin D3, and vitamin D3 goes to your liver, and then the liver goes to your kidney and makes calcitriol. Calcitriol is the active form of vitamin D. Calcitriol helps to increase the absorption of calcium and phosphate in the blood. Some other parts that play a function in determining skin color are first the sun, and the sun affects your melanocytes, and your melanocytes will increase the number of melanin that they produce, and that is why you get tanned, because there is an increase in melanin. Another part that plays a role in determining skin color is your hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a dark purple blood pigment, and it can make your skin darker. Carotene is another pigment, and this is an orange pigment, and you can find it in tomatoes and oranges. There is also ACTH or MSH, and these stimulate melanin production as well. Some other factors of skin color are nevus, which are birthmarks. Nevus are birthmarks. Freckles are hyperpigmentation. Albinism is when melanocytes are not stimulated. And vitiligo is when you have white patches on dark skin, such as with Michael Jackson.
There are two different ways that the integumentary system can respond to damage. The first way is regeneration. Regeneration is when there is damage and the damage is replaced with cells of the same type. With regeneration, the cells restore the organ function completely. The second type of response to damage is fibrosis. Fibrosis is a gap which fills in with scar tissue. There is collagen, which is made by fibroblast, and the full functionality will not be restored. The cells may not divide with fibrosis. There are 4 different stages of healing. The first stage of wound healing is that the cut blood vessels will bleed into the wound, as you can see in the first picture. The second part of wound healing is that a clot forms and leukocytes clean the wound. This provides a temporary barrier from pathogens. You can see this in the second picture. In the third picture, the blood vessels regrow and a granulation tissue forms. Granulation tissue is a vascular connective tissue, which you can see in the third picture in the bottom left. The last stage of wound healing is that the epithelium regenerates and a connective tissue fibrosis occurs, as you can see with the scab. There are 3 different classes of burns. There is a first-degree burn, which completely destroys the epidermis, as you can see in the picture on the far left. A second-degree burn destroys the epidermis in the upper portion of the dermis, which can be seen in the middle. And a third-degree burn destroys the epidermis and all of the dermis, which you can see on the far right. With burn victims, there is the rule of nines, and the rule of nines is used to estimate the body surface that is covered by burns. The way that the rule of nines works is to divide the body into 11 different regions, which are each 9%. The 11 different regions are the head, the chest, the abdomen, the upper back, the lower back, the front left leg, the back left leg, the front right leg, the back right leg, the left arm, the right arm, and 1% left over for the genital region. There are 3 common types of skin cancer. The first common type is basal cell carcinoma. This is the most common type of skin cancer, and the treatment is normally surgical removal. The second type of common skin cancer is squamous cell carcinoma. This is the second most common type of skin cancer, and the treatment is radiation as well as surgical removal. The last common type of skin cancer is melanoma. Melanoma is the least common, but it is deadly, and it requires extensive surgical removal. Some risk factors of skin cancer are particular skin type, amount of sun exposure, age, family history of skin cancer, as well as immune system strength.